you look at other clubs like Grimsby have acted fast yesterday, sacked a manager who I would not be surprised if he ends up at Brennan Park, because I know Palios has tried to get him before, and Paul Hurst. That said, he's a failed manager, so I assume he's not a contender. I assume Danny Cowley's not a contender, as he was a failed manager who got sacked as well. I think Carl Robinson's been sacked as well, so we maybe that's why we can't find one, because if you're trying to find a manager who's never been sacked, your pool is quite small. When he said he has time, he hasn't got time. And I posted this on Twitter before, didn't I? Like, the moment Mickey went, that was the time to act, get someone in, start building and hit the ground running. We didn't. There was managers out there. I mean, people will know I was shouting for Mike Williamson from sort of day one. He's gone into, I mean, look at MK Dons as a club. They sacked Graham Alexander, I think, on the Sunday. On Tuesday, their new manager's in place. He lost the opening game. They then beat Bradford 4-1. They beat Swindon 3-2 yesterday. They're a club now looking very much up the table. Are the managers out there? And look, I'm not saying we can go and attract a Cowley or a Carl Robinson. I know they're unrealistic for us. The worry is, are we as a football club doing enough to attract managers? Or are managers coming for an interview and we're saying, no, you can't bring your staff, and this is how we do things here, and this, and this, and they run a mile? And is that why the recent managerial appointments have been Dawes, Mickey coming back, was he wanted a job in the local area, probably. Keith Hill, who was well on the way down as a manager. Jacko, who we know wasn't the first choice, was Anthony Barry, was offered it before him and then went to Bayern Munich. Fair play. My worry on Atkins is it's just been a continuation of the same. I don't think there's that freshness. He was around the club. I think a lot of the messages and the communication is going to be the same. I think he's got the team wrong 3 games on the trot now. I think the Doncaster game, and he admitted that himself, Regan Hendry as a lone defensive midfielder, I think a lot of fans, we were all saying that wasn't going to work. He played that, and we cost ourselves a game in that one. You then go to Morecambe, who I think Morecambe were there for the taking in that game. I think we had the advantage from, we played a day early on the Friday night. They had Sutton away, and they didn't look on it that nice. But we offered nothing going forward. We left Actor on the bench and Hawks on the bench till far too late, in my opinion. When we had them on, we looked a threat, and we did create some chances at the end, but it was all too late. And then yesterday, I say it again, I think starting Saunders, I think, was a mistake. And that's the worry to me. We're still, I do think we're looking a little bit more organised. I'll say that for Nige. I do think he speaks well. He's clearly a much better manager than Ian Dawes, but I just think if he'd have come in as someone who wasn't at the club with his own assistant, I think it might have been different. But the fact he was already there, I think it's just a continuation of the same, where I think what it needs is, I mean, someone used a word like nuclear. I think it does need a bomb dropping on it and a real different change of direction. Now, what managers would take us at the moment, that's a big question, but that's up to Mark Palios to convince someone to come in. I mean, ones I think would be realistic, Phil Parkinson at Altrincham, and he's now linked strongly to the Grimsby job. I'm sure we could attract him. There's a couple in the League of Ireland doing really well. Shamrock Rovers manager, I don't think we would get him. Damien Duff's doing well. So there are names out there. The fact that I'm looking at this in part-time and I can rally off names, but Mark, to me, just seems like he's not bothering to look. To me, is quite concerning. Now, is it a case of he's just got Atkins as an interim till investment or a sale is in place and they might want to bring their own man in? Okay, but that could be too late. So I really hope that Mark does take a long, hard look and think we need to do something here, rather than just bury the head in the sand and hope it goes away.
Yeah, I have to agree with both of you. I don't think there is time. I think there's something that's got to be done fairly quickly. I think Adkins, I agree, has brought a bit more organisation, and you could see his impact in those early games. However, that doesn't seem to have gone through into sort of the latter games we've had. Yes, there's managers are always going to get selection wrong at times, but it's how they react to that and how willing they are to correct those wrongs. It's unfortunate because he's one of those names that was often touted every time we've been looking for a manager, which feels like it's been so regularly recently that people wanted in. Yes, I guess he hasn't had the instant effect that everybody hoped he would. I don't necessarily think that makes him a bad manager. I think he's working with, as we said before, players who are ridiculously low on confidence, some out of form, and it's a really, really tough job. But you're right. I think we do need somebody new in, somebody with some fresh ideas, somebody who's going to just give the players something different to think about. It feels maybe like some of the players are just kind of going, or the team's going through the motions and hoping that those motions will create some positive results rather than actually trying something really out of the ordinary. And that might be something that a new manager would bring in. I know we've talked a lot on the podcast about the benefits of connections to Tranmere and successful managers in the past. I think we're really running short of people who've got that connection now. So it is time to try something different. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge looker-upper of sort of managerial experience and success in the lower leagues, but there's bound to be people out there. I get what Mark was saying about failed managers and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, they're always going to have that, and you're going to have to take a punt on somebody at some point, whether they've been sacked or not in the past. But yeah, I agree. I don't think we've got the time to wait, and it's important that something comes along pretty quickly.